The Emerald Tablet. Chapter 15. The World is a Ball. No one tried to talk until they reached the main level and were back on Moo Way. There was too much going on, too many people. "Was that the coolest thing you've ever seen, or what?" Gary finally asked. "It didn't feel so cool to me," Benjamin said. "I found it disturbing." "Disturbing?" Andy asked. "Are you kidding? I felt like I was reliving the best experience in my life." "Which was what?" Iva asked. "Disney World. What else?" Andy exclaimed. "So what just happened?" Iva asked, because I have to agree with Benjamin. The whole thing creeped me out. "It was really weird," Heidi said. "I knew what he was going to do before he even started, and I knew what he was doing when it was happening, but I still couldn't stop it. It was like I was standing back and watching him come in and control my mind." She shuddered. "I think he was picking memories out of our minds and replaying them." "That's impossible," Iva said. "I never had that experience before." "What was it?" Andy asked. "I don't want to talk about it," Iva said, "but I know I've never had it." "I can't explain it," Heidi said as her brow crinkled. "Maybe it was thoughts also." Benjamin relaxed. At least he wasn't the only one who'd had a negative experience. "It must have been. Mine wasn't a memory either," he said. "I felt so happy," Andy said. "It was kind of a bummer when I realized I was back at the trials." "I think our friend Andreas Matthias is getting a little carried away with himself," Jack said. "I'm actually surprised the Deimos twins put up with that kind of display." "Why wouldn't they?" Andy asked. "Well, that trick Andreas just pulled borders closely on mind control, like Heidi just said," Jack replied. "Mind control is one of those restricted things, only used when absolutely necessary." "So why was it allowed then?" Heidi asked. "I guess it wasn't true mind control," Jack answered. "Andreas placed an illusion field around each person in the stadium. Everyone was in total control of their own mind, but still, it's walking the line if you ask me." Jack shook his head. "Anyway, it's been fun, but I really must run." And Jack the Nautical teleported away. "So what did you guys relive?" Ryan Jordan asked, interrupting their conversation. Heidi whipped her head around, her brown hair turning bright red. "Do you mind? Can't you see we're having a private conversation here?" Even if Benjamin hadn't felt her anger, the hair-changing color thing would have given it away. "Hey," Jonathan said, "we're just trying to be friendly. Why are you always so rude?" "Because you guys are always butting into stuff that's none of your business," Andy replied. Benjamin glanced into Andy's mind and swore he felt jealousy hidden somewhere behind the anger. This alliance thing seriously gave an inside perspective into almost everything. "You know, I'll butt in wherever and whenever I want," Ryan replied, "and frankly, I'm a little sick of your attitude. But just go ahead and keep your little secrets." He and Jonathan turned and walked away. "They were trying to read our minds," Heidi said. "I mean, Ryan was. I don't think Jordan would have even stood a chance, and Ryan's still trying now." "Can you hold him out?" Gary asked. "Of course," Heidi laughed. "They're both pretty pathetic at telepathy." "Still, we need to be a little more careful around them," Benjamin said. "I don't trust them." "Yeah, me neither," Andy said. "So what are you going to get for your birthday?" he asked, shifting the conversation. Benjamin could still sense the jealousy and anger, but figured maybe saying something about it wouldn't be the coolest thing in the world to do. "I don't know. Maybe we could find something cool in one of these shops." Benjamin gestured toward the countless stores lining the street. "Let's try this one," Heidi said, nodding at a shop on the left. It had a variety of things, for lack of a better word, displayed in the front windows. A three-dimensional sign above it read "The Silver Touch," and showed a holographic silver cube floating in the air. As they entered the shop, a bell rang. Immediately off to the right sat a large chess set. Gary made a beeline for it. "Whoa, this is beautiful. I've never seen anything like it," he said. And Gary wasn't understating. Each piece was made of a gem which changed color depending on the angle it was being viewed from. "And you never will again," a voice said, coming from the back. "Each piece is a solitary piece of ammonite, the rarest gem on earth. It's so rare because each piece is a fossil of the ancient crustaceous creature, the ammonite." "It's amazing," Gary said. "Well, go ahead. You can pick up a piece and feel it," the shopkeeper said. Gary carefully picked up a rook standing on a white base. The piece was light and smooth and reflected a rainbow of colors. "I've had this set for a long time," the shopkeeper said. "Nobody wants to spend the money to buy it. But I don't mind. I've come to look forward to seeing it here each day. I think I would miss it if it sold." Benjamin, Andy, Heidi, and Iva walked over to join Gary. The shopkeeper looked the students over. "Year 1 Denarians, I would guess. Summer school students, if I'm not mistaken?" The students nodded their heads. "My name's Morpheus Midas." He extended his right hand. "Welcome to the Silver Touch." Gary placed the rook back on the chessboard and shook the extended hand. "Gary Goodweather." "Pleased to meet you, Gary. Are you a fan of chess?" Morpheus asked. Oh, I love to play, but I have a hard time finding anyone who puts up much of a challenge, Gary answered. Have you tried your telekinesis teacher? Morpheus asked. You mean Pantheros Pavlos? Iva asked. Well, I called him the Panther when I was in school, but yes. Whenever I'm looking for some real competition, I still look him up. He smiled at Gary. Of course, if you really are that good, you could come by any time you like for a game. I'm not bad. Morpheus Midas nodded to a poster hanging on the wall behind him. It had a close-up picture of a checkmate. Bangkok Chess Open? Gary said. You mean you've played there? What's the Bangkok Chess Open? Andy asked. Only the biggest and most important chess tournament in the entire world, Gary replied. He looked back at Morpheus. But it wouldn't really even be a challenge, would it? I mean, wouldn't you be able to read everybody's minds? Well, I would if I let myself, but that wouldn't be very sportsmanlike, Morpheus answered. No, I let it be solely a game of wit. In fact, there have been years that I've lost. Of course, sometimes that's been on purpose. We're not supposed to compete in events with humans, you know. So the whole thing has got to be incognito, if you know what I mean. He winked. The Silver Touch? Morpheus Midas, you said? Benjamin asked. The one and only, Morpheus said. Have you heard of me? Well, I've heard of King Midas, Benjamin replied, but he turned things into gold, not silver, right? If the Greek gods were for real, then why not a mythological king? Morpheus cleared his throat. My notorious alchemist ancestor. Yes, he was a distant relative on my father's side, and yes, he did turn objects into gold. Much more common in my family, however, is transmuting objects into silver. You can change things into silver? Heidi asked. Well, no, I can't, but the store has been in my family for generations, Morpheus said. We may even still have some of the stuff that got changed over the ages around here. He glanced around the store. The beauty of the amylite seemed to mesmerize Iva. Do you have anything else made of amylite? She asked. You know, maybe something small, like jewelry? Beautiful jewelry for a beautiful young lady, Morpheus replied. Iva smiled. Andy scowled. I have just the thing for you, Morpheus said, leading her over to a jewelry display case near what looked like an antique cash register. He reached into the case and picked up an elliptical-shaped pendant suspended on a long silver chain and held it out to Iva. Oh, it's beautiful, she said, placing it over her head. It's hard to tell exactly what colors are in it. It keeps changing, she said, admiring it. Amylite is said to have special powers, too, Morpheus said. Have you learned anything about telemagnifiers yet in any of your classes? He asked. Telemagnifiers? Andy repeated. They're objects which can be used to increase the power of one's mind. Simply put, when the strength of the mind is not enough, the telemagnifiers amplify the mind's abilities, Morpheus said. You mean by wearing this pendant I'll be able to lift heavier objects? Iva asked. Oh, no, that's not quite right. You see, different telemagnifiers work with different abilities. In the case of amylite, telegnostic powers may be increased, Morpheus said. Telegnosis is my favorite subject, Iva said. I feel like I was born for it. And so you may have been, Morpheus suggested. Well, either you're the perfect salesman or I was meant to find this pendant, Iva said. But whichever it is, I'll take it. Perhaps it's both, Morpheus replied to Iva, chuckling as he stamped her thumb down on a scanner pad to get her DNA credit count information. The mention of the telemagnifiers gave Benjamin a great idea. Could the keys of the Hunter, of Orion, if that really was a valid connection, be telemagnifiers? And if so, would Morpheus know where they could buy them? So what other kinds of telemagnifiers do you sell? Benjamin asked. No need to be too direct. What kind are you looking for? Morpheus asked. I have big ones, small ones, yellow ones, ones you eat. Any that look like keys? Benjamin asked. Maybe that are pretty old? Or that a hunter might use? Heidi added. Benjamin wondered if she was reading his mind or had just figured out what he was getting at. Telemagnifiers that are keys used by a hunter. Morpheus thought for a moment. Can't say that I've seen any key telemagnifiers, but I have multitudes of other items. I'm sure there's something to please everyone. Okay, so it didn't sound like Morpheus knew anything about the keys of Orion. It was a good idea, though. Benjamin's head turned when he heard Heidi's voice in his head. He smiled at her, and she smiled back. It was still just weird getting used to so many people with telepathic skills. What do you have that would make a good birthday gift? Benjamin asked. Who's the present for? Mother, father, brother? A young lady? He winked. Benjamin felt his face heat up. Oh, no, it's for me. Today's my birthday, and my parents told me I could get myself something. Benjamin looked around the store. But to tell you the truth, I really don't know what most of this stuff is. I'm pretty sure I don't want any jewelry, he said, looking down at the case where Iva's pendant had come from. Morpheus studied Benjamin. "I have the perfect thing." He walked over to a large display case in the center of the room. From it he pulled a small globe of the earth about the size of a golf ball. "Oh, I don't need a globe," Benjamin said, hoping not to hurt the man's feelings. "A globe? I hardly think so. This, young man, is a geodyne. Invented by one of my ancestors, as a matter of fact." He held the object out to Benjamin. "It looks like a globe to me," Andy agreed with Benjamin. "What's a geodyne? Does it mean really small globe or something?" "I'll dim the lights and show you," Morpheus said. While he spoke, the lights in the room grew dark and the door and window shaded over. Benjamin held the geodyne on his right palm. "Activate it with your mind," Morpheus said. "It will understand the commands of whoever holds it." In his mind, Benjamin willed the object to do something, but what he had no idea. Regardless, the geodyne began to glow, blue and green, the colors of the earth. It cast out a three-dimensional image of the earth starting from what appeared to be the creation of the planet. The image shifted and swirled while a voice narrated the origin of the earth. Land masses could be seen forming, oceans growing. "You can make the narration audible or telepathic or turn it off completely," Morpheus said. Benjamin willed off the sound. He found that he could control the speed of the events on Earth, could zoom in to any location he wanted for any time. He could see the creation of plants and animals, could see the Ice Age, could see the sinking of Lemuria. It was an entire history of the Earth contained in a globe the size of a golf ball. And then something really weird happened. Benjamin held the geodyne in his fist and closed his eyes. He wasn't sure why, he just did it. And an image flashed into his brain. 3 hearts intertwined. Yet as soon as the image appeared in his mind, it vanished, and Benjamin was left with a deep feeling of disappointment. Like he wanted to have a connection with whatever had caused the image to come to him, but he didn't. Opening his eyes, he turned off the geodyne, looked up at Morpheus Midas. He knew he wasn't leaving the store without the thing, no matter what it cost. For whatever reason, he was meant to have this geodyne. "It's perfect. I'll take it," he said. He tossed it up in the air to catch it, but missed, and he felt his heart stop beating just for a second. The geodyne dropped to the floor, but landed softly, making barely a sound, and rolled a few feet away. "Did I mention that it's virtually indestructible?" Morpheus said. Benjamin's heart started beating again. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, retrieving the geodyne from under the nearby table. He wrapped his fingers around it again, and this time put it in his pocket.